Okay. So last week we basically finished off our lesson creating a quick little game where Scratch the Cat kicks the ball into the goal. When you move the mouse, he follows the mouse. You kick the ball into the goal. There's no points or anything like that. There's no score, so it's not much of a game. But we talked about a few different types of things that go into creating a game. Number one, we talked about some of the motion blocks that are under the script section. We used a couple of those. We talked about some of the event blocks, namely the when flag clicked, which is the event that kind of starts your entire game. We talked about some of the control blocks that allow you to loop things over and over and repeat different functions. And then we also talked about, just briefly, some of the other blocks, in this case, the sensing blocks, where we could tell if Scratch the Cat was touching the ball or the ball was touching Scratch the Cat. So we're not going to use this same game today, but we're going to use a lot of those same tools and a lot of the same blocks to basically create our first real game today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just go up to the File menu and create a brand new Scratch project. Okay, and basically what we're going to be creating is a game similar to this. It's not very complicated. It's a game I created called Kitty Drop. We're going to start this today, and we're going to finish it next week, but it'll at least be, for the most part, playable today. And basically all it is a game where fortune cookies fall from the sky, and the cat follows the mouse, and you eat the fortune cookies. And once you get past 10, then the game speeds up. You've got 3 lives in the bottom right-hand corner. So if for whatever reason you drop a cookie, then you lose one of your lives. So you'll notice the game gets faster and faster and faster. So we're going to start by creating this, and then next week we'll finish it off by actually turning it into a full game and adding the score and the points and everything. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions before we start on what we did last week?
No, I'm good.
Good.
I
Okay.
know I missed it, but I'm good.
Okay, excellent. So the first thing we're going to start is same way that we did with the last project. We're going to set up our level first, and then we're going to set up Scratch the Cat to kind of do our movements, and then we'll add the fortune cookies or whatever sprite you want him to catch, and then we'll actually implement the logic for our game. So the first thing we want to do is click on our backdrop for this game, and our backdrop is in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to load a backdrop from the library, but if you have a picture that you want to use, or you want to take a picture with the camera, you're more than welcome to. I am going to pick, when I'm looking at these backdrops, just to let you know kind of what I'm looking for, I'm basically looking for a backdrop that has a very, very clearly delineated top and bottom section. So like this one here is probably the one I'm going to use, this chalkboard one. You'll notice that there's like a floor and then a wall, and there's kind of like trim on the floor.
Okay.
That basically gives us a really clear-cut spot for the player to know when they've missed catching one of the items and basically how much time they have to catch one of the items. So we'll start just by setting that as our backdrop. And then the next thing we'll want to do is set up Scratch the Cat. So just like we did last week, I'm going to click the little letter I in the upper left-hand corner to give him a name. Cat. And then I'm going to set up our when flag clicked and kind of put him where I want him to go. Right about there. So I'm going to reset his position, and then just like last week, I'm going to put in a forever block and tell him to go to the mouse pointer. So at our most very basic, we kind of have something similar to what we had last week. We have a backdrop, and we have Scratch the Cat following the mouse. So if you want to pick up where we did, where we left off with last week, you're basically in the same spot at this point, with the exception of we don't have a soccer ball yet.
Okay.
So a couple things that we need to update on here, at least first for our Scratch character, our cat character. Right off the bat, our game last week, we could move him around, and we can move him around anywhere on the screen. But our game, we only want him to follow the mouse left and right. We don't want him to follow the mouse up and down. So do you have any thoughts on how we could get our character to kind of stay in the same spot from top to bottom and only move left and right?
I don't know. Is there a horizontal setting?
Yeah, actually there kind of is. So we talked about all of our character positions are basically on an XY coordinate plane. So as we move the mouse around, you'll notice in the bottom corner of the stage here, the X and Y coordinates update. And then in the upper right-hand corner, our character's coordinates update too. So one of the things that we can do is we're basically telling the character to follow the mouse using the go-to mouse pointer block. And we can also use this block, set Y to a value, to always force the same Y value. So in this case, I'm going to pick 75 because it's about where I want him. He's kind of just close enough to the floor that it looks like he's kind of walking along it. One thing I do want to point out is that with this block, just like with a lot of the things that we talked about last week, where we had certain movements that all kind of happened at the same time, so we didn't really see any change. If we put this block before the go-to mouse pointer block, you'll see nothing changes on our stage because we're telling the Y value to set to -75, and then immediately after we're telling it to follow the mouse pointer. So we need to make sure that we're telling it to follow the mouse pointer first.
Okay.
And then setting that Y value. Does that make sense?
Yep. Order matters.
Yep, order is very, very important. And actually, one of the things that you'll see is that a lot of the issues or a lot of the bugs that we might have in our game are going to be due to the order of how things happen. Okay, so next up, we need to create something for Scratch the Cat to catch. Okay, so I'm going to go into our sprite section, and I'm going to add a new sprite from our library. And I used fortune cookies for the other example, but we could just as easily use anything. In a last group, we used fish, so I'm probably going to stick with the fish motif since cats probably like fish. And so it puts the fish on the stage for us. And again, same as we did last week, we're basically going to set up our fish the same way. We're going to change the size of the fish and then put him in a starting position, or her, I guess, in a starting position. So I'm going to make sure that I click on the fish sprite. I'm going to use that same flag block that we used last week and that we set up for Scratch. And then I'm going to use the same blocks that we used last week for the soccer ball. So first I'm going to go to looks and set the size to something. I think we used 35% in the last block. That seems about the right size. So 35% for our size. And then the position, I want the fish in the motion tab to kind of go up to the top of the screen. So it's going to start at the top and kind of fall downwards. And if I move my mouse to the very top of the screen, our X and Y coordinates, you'll notice stop at 180. I can keep moving the mouse farther up the screen, but Y doesn't go any farther past 180. And if I go all the way down to the bottom of the stage, it doesn't ever go past -180. So that kind of sets up our top and bottom. And then the same thing for the left and right. The left is 240 or -240, and the right is +240. So we've got 180, -180, -240, 240 for our X and Y positions. So let's move the fish. We'll start, put him at 0 for the X value so that he's right in the middle of the screen. I'm going to put him up at, what was it, 180? 180. And then start my game, and he pops right up to the top of the screen. So far, so good?
Yep.
Okay. Now, we have a few different ways that we can move the fish, just like we did with the soccer ball last week. We're going to start off by using the glide function, or the glide block. So over the course of 1 second, as soon as we start the game, The fish is going to go from 0, 180 to 0, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball this. Let's say maybe 110,
Mm-hmm.
farther, 130.
Yeah.
I'll do negative 130. Now we start our game, and he drops down to the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
And stops. Okay. This isn't going to be the block that we actually end up using for this game, but it's a good interim step. There's a couple issues with this block that we'll see when we start to add the interactivity. So just as a heads up, we will be changing this section, but we're going to use it for now just to kind of set up our basics.
Okay.
All right. So our game basically starts off with the fish dropping from top to bottom. But as we mentioned, it's always at the middle of the screen, and he always just kind of starts at the top and goes to the bottom. So our next step is to kind of fix the issue of him falling in the same spot every single time. And the way that we can do that is we need to change this X value from 0 to something different. Now, we just saw that our X range is from negative 240 to 240 from left to right.
Right.
So we need to get a way for the game to randomly pick a number between negative 240 and 240. And the way we can do that is we have some other blocks that we're going to use. In this case, we have blocks called operators, which are basically all of our math functions that we are going to use in code. Every single programming language out there has operators, which basically allow you to, as you can see, add two numbers together, subtract, multiply, divide, pick random numbers. You got your greater than, less than. We also have some special operator blocks that we'll get into a little bit later, but there's the and or both block. We typically refer to it as the and block, which just means that two things have to happen. You have to have this happen and this happen in order for that operator to be true.
Yes.
Or block is either or. Not, or some people call it the opposite block, because in Scratch, it's not like typical programming languages. This just flips around whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
We've got some other blocks that we're not going to use for right now, but we might go into them in future sessions. For right now, the ones that we're concerned with are these up at the top. And we're going to start with this pick random 1 to 10 block. We're going to change those values from our negative 240 to 240. We're going to put those in for our X values. Okay, so basically what we're saying is that when that fish starts up, when our game starts up, pick a random number between negative 240 and 240, and then drop him to the bottom of the screen. Does that make sense so far?
I'm totally following you.
All right, I'm going to start this, and you're going to see an issue that pops up right away.
Is it, am I the only teacher on right now?
Yeah, we had a couple teachers, there's like 6 or 7 teachers actually that did the 1:30 session. They were originally scheduled for the 3:30 session, but I guess their school has like teacher training time or something.
Yeah,
So they all did it at 1:30.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I think you're the only person. Like I said, there was 2 other people that were joining, but or at least they told me they were going to join, but I don't see them in the Slack channel.
And I just wanted to let you know that I actually have an appointment at 4, but it's only 5 minutes away, so I've got a good 5 minutes more.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know how long the session was, but I wanted to jump in for sure.
Sure, no problem. They're typically an hour.
Oh, okay.
I already did publish the 1:30 session on YouTube and on the Spark page, though.
Oh,
so if you want to follow that along later, you'll be caught up for next week.
I can definitely do that. So you already went through all this with them?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I can definitely catch the YouTube and save you a breath.
Okay, then that's perfect.
Do I need to know anything to find you on YouTube?
Just go to sparkappleague.com.
Okay.
And at the very, very top of the website, there's a teacher training, and there's a button that says like see the schedule.
Sweet.
The currently published YouTube links are at the bottom of that page.
Sweet. Okay, I've been trying to record this with my phone, so this is perfect.
Oh yeah, no, I record every session, and the ones that kind of like go off without a hitch, I publish them all on YouTube. So last week's are on YouTube and at the bottom of that page, and today's is on the bottom of that page too.
Awesome. I teach programming, so I'll be okay, and I'll definitely get caught up. So thank you so much, Derek. I appreciate it.
No problem, Donna. See you next week.
Okay, bye now.